This is ModelPad, an open source note-taking app with AI assistance and vector search. Today I'll show you how to set up and run this open source app locally and how you can make your own contributions to the code. Before we look at that and how we set up the app, let's talk about some of the features. You'll recognize a lot of common text editor features like being able to use tabs, being able to save documents so they show up over on the left-hand side, and some new features too that are more AI specific. So in the bottom, you'll see those three buttons. They're sort of like the AI icon, and then there's like rewrite and summarize. Well, those are powered by a couple of system prompts that you can edit. And if you edit these, it'll save them for later. So you can sort of customize your AI generation. There's the system prompt. There's a prefix that goes before your RAG documents, so you can control how they behave a little bit more. Here I just edited the system prompt to say respond only with JavaScript. So now when I generate text, it will only generate JavaScript. You can also change the model and some of the model settings like the temperature and generation length. Right now we're using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. You can also set the documents that are in context when you're generating. So I just added that other tab to the context. So now when I ask a question about the information that's in that tab, it should be able to reference that and use it when generating text. So I just asked it, what's the book in my collection? And that's that document has a summary of the book, Where Wizards Stay Up Late. So in addition to using the Claude models, you can also connect to your own local Ollama server. And if you do that, it'll just pick up any models that you have installed, and you can select those as well, and also configure any of the Llama C++ settings here. And then if I were to try to generate something again, it will use that local model instead of Claude. What you can do is use vector search to find your old document. So if you search in that left-hand bar, it's actually going to create an embedding of your search and compare it to embeddings of all the previous documents you've created. So those are the primary features of ModelPad. Let's talk about what we'll be covering in this first video in a series of videos on ModelPad, and then we'll talk about what's going to come up in the future videos. So today is part one, and we'll focus on how to set up a developer environment running ModelPad locally on your own machine. And that will include how to clone the repository from GitHub, how to install all the dependencies, configure environment variables. And then finally, at the end, we'll get the dev server running and make an actual change to the code. And then in the following videos, we'll get into more detail about how everything's organized. We'll look at how lexical text editor works, how the AI-generated text is sent to the various models, and how the response is streamed back. And then we'll look at how the vector search features work. And finally, we'll wrap up the series by checking out how ModelPad is deployed to production using Kubernetes. Step is to clone the GitHub code. You can use the link in the description to get to the GitHub page. Just copy that HTTPS address and then run git clone with it. That will pull down all the files, and then you can just change directory into that ModelPad directory, and everything should be in there all ready to go. Next, we need to install a number of dependencies, and you can find those in the README page. There's a link to all of the different installation instructions. We need Go, we need Node, Docker, and finally SuperTokens, plus two more AI dependencies I'll talk about in a minute. But you can just follow the install instructions on all of these pages to get the packages all installed on whatever machine type you have. There should be some instructions for Linux and Windows and Mac OS on all three of those pages. So just kind of go through those instructions and get them installed. And then finally, we'll do SuperTokens. So we're just going to sign up for a SuperTokens account and use their hosted version. So just hit sign up there, and that's it. So once you've signed up for SuperTokens, you're going to get this series of questions for setting up your account. You can just choose these same options: email, password plus social login, pre-built UI, front-end setup, back-end setup is all done. So just click those. and then just hit manage. So we're saying we want them to host, and then choose whatever location's closest to you there. And then hit deploy SuperTokens core. And after a couple seconds, it will spin up a new environment for you. And then it will give you these two values that we're going to need in a minute for setting up our environment variables. So just save and copy those values somewhere. To create an Anthropic API key to use. So from your dashboard, you can go to settings and then API keys and then create key. That will allow you to name your key. Just give that whatever name you want. And then for the workspace, the default workspace should be fine. So select that and create key, and then copy that and save it alongside the other SuperTokens key. Our last dependency is getting an OpenAI key. So you'll need to sign up for an OpenAI account and then go to your settings page. From there, you can either create a new project, use your default project, whatever you want. But once you have a project, just go to the members option under project and then create a new service account. So we'll hit plus service account and then just give it any old name that you can remember, hit create, and that will give you another API key to copy and save somewhere. Just put it in a document where you can find it later. So at this point, you should have all the API keys you need to configure the environment. So let's go into our directory we cloned from GitHub and run copy.example.env to .env. That'll create a new file called .env, and it will have some values filled in, but some will be blank. And those blank items should correspond to the 4 keys that we just generated. So we can go through and fill all of those values in by just copying the key. Make sure you don't have any blank, empty white space at the end or beginning of any of the keys. But otherwise, just go ahead and fill all those in there. And then once they're filled in, we'll just save that file and we should be all ready to go. It's done. Only 2 more steps. We need to install the node dependencies, and then we need to run the dev server. So let's do that. Just back in the root directory of the project, we run npm-i. That will install all packages we need to run the JavaScript front-end application. And that'll just take a second. While it's building, we can go look at what we're going to do next, which is run the dev command. The dev command is going to run the database, the backend server, and the front-end server all in one. So we just run npm run dev, and it should spin up all 3 of those. Should go pretty fast. Sometimes Go will take a second just to get everything started. And so then you might get this Windows security if you're on Windows, hit allow there. And once you've done that, all 3 servers should be running. And all you need to do is go to localhost port 5173, and we should see a running app. So very cool. So now that we have the app running, we can try logging in and make sure everything's working right. So when you hit sign in, you'll get this sign in form. You can also go to sign up. Just put in your own email address and a password. I think, if I remember right, I think you might need a number in here. Yeah, okay, so just put in a number with letter, and then you can save that. You should be signed in at this point. You'll see the app looks a little bit different. You now have the sidebar because you're logged in. I can also hit Control Save to save documents now. And everything should be working with our auth. This looks good. Can check out our dev server and make sure we can make live updated changes. So I'm just going into the index.css file under front end, and I'm going to change a couple of these CSS variables and save the file. Yep. Okay. So you'll see the browser update in real time, and that's all you need to do to make changes. We're all done setting up our dev server. I'm just going to leave you with a couple comments about the structure of the repository. Couple of the most important files to check out are main.go. That's sort of the entry point for the backend server. So you can get an idea of all the URLs that are set up. You'll also see a number of packages that support specific features of the app. So like streaming.go is where all of the code stream. The Anthropic responses lives. You have the notes file, which is sort of like handling all of the storing and persistence of notes. We also have the embeddings folder, which has like some of the code that creates the embeddings for us for the search. And then also there's the front end directory, which has the React app that sort of powers the whole front end of the app. And you can give all that a look. And we'll dive into all of this in a lot more detail in upcoming videos. So if you want to follow along, feel free to subscribe or just check out the channel again in the future. And I should be putting up more pretty soon. Thanks so much. Bye.